Folks are like, hold up, you led development operations at Team Rubicon for 7 years when your annual revenue went from $275,000 to $51 million? They want to know, how the hell did we do it? Well, in this video, I am going to share the single most important factor to quickly grow your revenue and impact. My name is Matt Scott. Over the past decade, I've consulted with hundreds of nonprofit leaders on how to double their revenue in 3 years or less. I took time to identify what has been the biggest driver of growth, and here's what I found. Most nonprofits have permission to think itty-bitty, not big enough. The single most important thing that you can do as a leader of a nonprofit looking to expand your impact is to adopt a growth mindset. Not incremental growth, I mean exponential growth. I'm gonna share a simple exercise that you can lead your team through in order to do just that. But first, here's a story of a time when we partnered with a $500 million international aid organization to achieve 87% growth in unrestricted revenue in a single year, all using this simple exercise designed to change their mindset. Leadership approached us out of a place of fear. The overwhelming majority of their revenue was coming from restricted government grants, and we were in the midst of this crazy presidential election cycle. Maybe you remember it. We had two dramatically different approaches. One of the candidates was taking an America First approach. They were promising to slash government spending, especially foreign investment. Meanwhile, the other presidential candidate was advocating to increase government spending abroad as a way to advance U.S. foreign policy. With so much uncertainty, leadership needed a way to increase that unrestricted funding and reduce the risk. That's when they approached Causemic for help. They started by sharing that they wanted to increase unrestricted revenue by 5% each year for the next 3 years. The problem with this kind of thinking is that it encourages folks on the team to do exactly what they are currently doing, only slightly better. It's very difficult for people to identify new approaches to fundraising when they're asked to increase revenue a little itty bit at a time. I knew we needed to get them to think totally differently. We needed them to adopt a growth mindset. So we gathered the leadership team around a whiteboard and we asked them the single most important question you can ask your team if you want to drive growth. What would we do differently if we had no choice but to double our revenue over the next 3 years with half the resources? By pairing an audacious goal with a resource-constrained environment, you force creativity, innovation, and my favorite, ruthless prioritization. Once they got over the shock of the question, ideas were really flowing. One of the ideas that became one of their 3 key strategies was taking an audience-led approach. That meant sending the right message at the right time on the right channel. You might be totally surprised to hear that they were not already doing that. Truth be told, this $500 million organization was not. Like their peers, they had hired a creative agency that was sending emails to their constituents that were indistinguishable from their competitors. What do I mean about competitors? Hold up, Matt, we're nonprofits. I'm saying other nonprofit organizations providing humanitarian relief across the world. I view these as competitors because they are competing for the same limited attention and support of donors. I'd actually encourage you to think of other nonprofits operating in your space as your competitors. You can work together to advance your shared goals, but you should work tirelessly to differentiate yourself from them. You need to form your own unique value proposition. You need supporters to choose you over them, and to do that, well, you need to stand out. A lot of factors went into what came next for this client, but almost all originated from the growth mindset. Without it, they would not have been positioned to make the most of every opportunity that was presented. In a single year following this simple exercise, this international aid organization grew unrestricted revenue by 87%, unlocking tens of millions of dollars of more funding for their work. That would not have been possible had the team been directed to identify ways to grow revenue by 5% each year for the next 3 years. If growing your revenue would empower your team to have a bigger impact, I encourage you to gather your folks around that whiteboard and ask them what they would do differently. Seriously, if they had no choice but to double their revenue over the next 3 years with just half the resources. This is just one of the many practical tips I share in my free book, The High Growth Nonprofit. You heard it right. I am giving my book away for free. It's chock full of lessons I've learned from helping nonprofit leaders just like you quickly grow. It's the book I wish I had when I was in your shoes. You know, working fundraising, trying to make the most of the little that we had. So what are you waiting for? Help me be a best-selling author in the free book category. Get your free copy of The High Growth Nonprofit by using the link in the description of this video. This is Matt from Causemic, reminding you that it's all about progress, not perfection.